already in rehearsals for the Tonys. How's it going?
It's going to be a fucking disaster. I don't know. It felt like such a good idea, you know, and you say, like, I'd have been so angry if they'd have asked anyone else to do it, and now I'm like, oh no, this is really, because it's live, and it just means so much to me to do it. It means more, I don't think the theatre wing will be able to find a host to whom it would mean more this year, right now, and I don't know.
It always suck it, Neil Patrick Harris. It's over for you.
No, I hope he'll come back next year.
One of the things that's become a kind of a signature for your show was an idea that you came with, Carpool Karaoke.
Yeah.
And when you started that, people didn't quite get it at first? Nobody wanted to do it, is that right?
Well, it was hard to put people on our show full stop, like, is the truth. It was. I mean, genuinely, like, it was a difficult thing, and I understand it. I get it. Like, publicists would just go, well, we don't know this guy. He might be really mean. I'm not going to risk a client. We'll wait. We'll watch it for 6 weeks, and then we'll see. And we were just very, very aware that we didn't have 6 weeks, that we didn't have the luxury of an audience who would stick with us through a rocky start. Like, we knew that we had to hit the ground running and go, this is our show and this is me and we'll be here every night, you know? And lots of our friends from the UK were great to us. People like David Beckham or One Direction or Gordon Ramsay, Simon Cowell, people with nothing seemingly to promote were like, yeah, we'll come, we'll help, we'll dig in, and that started to help. And then with regards to the carpool thing, I mean, like, I have to say, myself and Ben Winston, who's the exec of our show and is producing the Tony Awards, we have never felt more sure of an idea. Once we got it, we were like, oh my God, it's great. I sort of very, very naively and bullishly thought, people are going to love this. And no one would do it. Like, no one at all, like zero. So it was just a chance meeting with Mariah Carey, and with someone from her label, rather. And we showed her a clip of me doing it on a sketch that we'd made for Comic Relief, which is my character from a sitcom I'd read, and I was singing songs with George Michael in a car. And there was just something very joyful about it. And we were like, and she saw it and showed it to Mariah, and Mariah, like, in a world where no one had the balls to do it, went, yeah, all right, let's do it. And she was amazing. Without her, it just wouldn't exist at all, period. And so we owe her a lot, and it's also very, very thrilling now when we get to say no to the people who said, said no to us a year ago. You know, there is an intimacy about them. There is an intimacy about, like, I think you could see Adele on 100 talk shows, and you won't see that side of her, and this goes for Justin Bieber, as it does for Stevie Wonder, as it does for Elton John. Like, there is an intimacy about it where people's it's not that their guard is down, it's that it's very, very different. In the same way that if you and I were chatting here, it would be very, very different if you guys weren't here. There is an intimacy to it which I'm very, very proud of, because lots of people talk about it in terms of the songs, which are, of course, these joyful and lovely and sometimes moving moments, but what I'm equally as proud of the interview within them, because I think any way you can show an artist, particularly when it's Elton John or Stevie Wonder, someone who have been interviewed by 100 Rolling Stone magazines or any of those things, that there is an intimacy there for their fans, for people who are interested in them, to see on TV, or when it's like Sia, or, you know, you could have Jennifer Lopez on a talk show 25 times. She's never going to send Leonardo DiCaprio a text on her phone. Or in fact, we did one the other week we did like a best of Broadway with Lin-Manuel Miranda And there was a bit that we actually had to cut just for time, really. But there was a moment where Lynn told me, and I've never read it and I've never seen it anywhere. Lynn told me that "You'll Be Back," the song "You'll Be Back" in Hamilton, was given to him by Hugh Laurie when he was doing an episode of House, and Hugh was asking him what he was working on. He told him about he was writing this sort of hip hop musical about Alexander Hamilton, and he was looking to write a song that King George would sing. And Hugh Laurie went, "Ah, yes, you'll be back." And apparently he just said in that moment, he was like, he heard it and had it and went home and wrote it. And you're like, oh, that's amazing. And like, we didn't even have time to put that in, you know?
Right. What if Hugh Laurie is behind a lot of things?
What if Hugh Laurie is behind you right now? I dare you to look.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about your start, because we know you were a Spice Girls fan, but I also understand that you started out as a kid wanting to be a performer, and you said that one of your earliest memories, correct me if I'm wrong, but your earliest memory, you were 4 years old, it was your sister's christening,
yeah,
and you got on, you were placed on a chair or something to be able to see it better.
Well, I grew up in the Salvation Army, which is, quite a weird organisation, and my younger sister was being christened, and we went up onto the platform, and I couldn't see because it was godparents and things around. So the priest, the Salvation Army officer, grabbed a chair and said, "Here, James, stand on this." And I can remember it. I remember it like it was yesterday, really. I remember standing on this chair. I remember looking out at the congregation, which was probably like 30 people tops. It felt like 3,000. And I just started like doing silly things, and people were laughing, and I like turned around and put my head between my legs, and people laughed again, and I was like, oh, this is great. But that's not the thing I really remember so clearly. What I remember really clearly is when it had finished, and we went back into the congregation, and I was sat between my parents, staring at, someone's back. I was like, oh, this is boring compared to it up there. Oh, you got to get back up there at some point. That's where it's great. And that was it, really.
And how old were you?
I would have been 4 at that time, yeah. I would say, on average, probably twice a month, I would go up to London, audition for something and not get it. And at the time, it could be very, very demoralising. But I'm so grateful for that rejection now, because the truth is, the only thing that separates an amateur and a professional, the job is the same. You're learning lines, you're saying them, that's it. The thing that separates a professional and an amateur is rejection. It's being told you're too tall, or your ears are too big, or your eyes are too weird, or you're too fat, or too short, or any of those. It's hearing those things and not giving up. If you can cope with that, then you can do it, And I'm so grateful that I didn't go to drama school and come out feeling like, I've already played Hamlet. And then and then you're so demoralized as an adult but when you're at school, it doesn't matter. It's not like you need to pay rent. And so I'm very, very grateful for that time, really. And I would get like the 2 pages with a scene where I'd be like the guy who drops off a TV to Hugh Grant, or like a newsagent in something. And I was like, and I really remember thinking, and I realised that all of these decisions were being made only on the way I looked. Well, you look like this, so you will play these roles, and then eventually you'll work your way up to like a bubbly judge in something. And I remember thinking, I always thought I'd get a chance at a seat at that table where I could see all of these lads who were my age, all just sort of, there's a chair, please. Mr. Hiddleston, come sit down. And you sort of go, and I thought, right, and that's when me and my friend Ruth just thought, well, why don't we try and write something? Why don't we write a sitcom? And we sat down and we wrote a show. I was from England, she was from Wales. I had a story that my best friend Gavin had done. Wow, didn't know he had any plans. We're not as close anymore. And he had met his girlfriend a certain way, and we got talking, and we wrote a script on spec. We just wrote it, and then we gave it to the BBC, and they said we didn't even write any more episodes. They said, when do you get back from Broadway with the History Boys? I was like, we get back in September. They said, right, we'll start shooting this October 1st.
So you realized early on that you were going to make your own best opportunities?
No, I just thought it became clear to me that the path was not open in the way that I wanted it to, in the way that I just thought, oh, okay, you don't have a divine right just to be offered no one's going to come along and just say, here's a great role for you. And I felt very lucky in the work that I had done, but it wasn't moving the needle at all. And that's why writing something and actually doing it, and there's a tremendous, all your choices are half luck, but that was a real lucky one.